Hello and welcome to some best practices for live capture of Flow Ingest. I'm going to start out by setting up the Flow Ingest servers, and then we'll move on to how we can hone the live capture tool to make it easier for our users. So as a system administrator, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come into Flow Control, and I'm going to open up my IOs. So this is showing here, I've got actually two Flow Ingest servers here. I've got one which is an NDI server and one which is SDI. So I've picked my SDI server. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rename my sources so I can have something that is easily recognizable rather than SDI1, SDI2, etc. So in this case, I'm just going to call this car park feed. And we'll just call that car park feed. And the next one, uncannily, it's the same camera on a different channel. So I'm just going to call this car park feed 2. You can type, good, car park feed 2, etc. And I would give these all user-defined names so they're easily recognizable within the live capture application. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my channels tab, and this will load the channels that are available on each ingest server. So we've set our sources. Now looking at the channels, and I'm going to come and select my 52 server again, and you'll see that there's multiple items here. So there's users that can access these channels, the codecs, and then the sources. So this is a good way to reduce the number of options for users to make it easily accessible. Flow Ingest generally tends to have lots of options all switched on at one time. So this is a way to reduce down the set to accomplish your live captures in an easier way. So firstly, I've actually reduced the number of users that can access the channels on this server, and I've actually created a group called Ingest Managers and assigned users to that ingest group, which is probably helpful. Secondly, I'm going to look at my codecs. So if we have a look here, we have, I don't know, probably hundreds of variations of codecs here, but I'm going to choose a house favorite of ours. So I'm just going to untick all the options for MP4, MXF, Op1A, and Op-Atom. I'm going to open up QuickTime, and I'm just going to take all the QuickTime options off, and I'm just going to add in one single one, which is the ProRes 42HQ. So I've now reduced down the codec options for that ingest channel. So we're not going to have to scroll through hundreds of codec options every time we set up a scheduled capture. The next thing is the sources. If you are not doing multicam, it's a good idea to have a one-to-one mapping of source to channel. In this way, I have car park feed is only available on channel 1 on the server, car park feed 2 is only available on channel 2, etc. If you are doing multicam, it makes sense to just have a channel and have all your sources in the one channel available. In this case, the first 4 channels, I'm just mapping one-to-one. I would have proxies switched on to make proxies in the channels as well if required. So, quick recap. We've named the sources within Flow Control. We've decided and reduced our sources and codecs per channel. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come across to Edit Share 1, and I'm going to go to my settings. I'm going to go to Live Capture. And you'll see that the channels are named as such straight out of the box, channel 1 to 8 on each server. But I want to give these some user-defined names so that I can easily recognize what the channel is. So we've done a one-to-one mapping in this case. So I'm just going to call this car park 1. We'll give it this color. And we can see that the change has been applied here. Call this car park 2. You can type this color here, and we might have some other cameras somewhere else, so let's just call this main auditorium for argument's sake. This might be our program. This might be cam 1 ISO, etc. You get the idea. And you can see that we've got acknowledgement down that these changes have applied. If we now come back to the capture screen and go to schedule view, you can see that we have user-defined names in each channel, which helps us recognize those items. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a schedule. So I'm just going to click and drag. There's a 45-minute schedule capture for today. I'm just going to call this car park activity. I'm going to add my source. And as before, because we restricted it to a single source on a single channel, we only have one option to select here. Just for quickness sake, I'm going to call this clip 1. And you'll see when we come down to the codecs, I've only got one codec to select, therefore reducing it to the house codec. I have multiple options for my media spaces, because this user has access to all these. And remember to add audio if you need audio channels. I can schedule that capture now. You can see that scheduled capture is here. It's labeled in this color because this is for this channel, car park 1. And I can then move the schedule capture around, etc. and do whatever I want with it. I can also delete the schedules. I can also duplicate if I have a particular scheduled capture that I like the setup of, save me going through the form again. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the CSV. So usually we come to here, download template CSV. That will give us this template here. And on page 1 is the instructions. The instructions have the layout of what steps we need to go through. So we will need to name a job like we did with form within the scheduled capture page. Give it a clip name, assign a channel, assign a source to that channel, media spaces, tapes, metadata if we need, flow projects, metadata, and all the different items down here are explained in this table. Further down is our list of codecs, etc. But the area that we're interested in initially is up here. So we should change our channel names to be the same as we have in ES1. So my suggestion here is that we go to live capture, come here and we see car park 1, that's channel names. We can add the channel names in here. 2. Our next one was main auditorium. And make sure these are in the correct order. Got to our next one, which was program, and then camera 1 ISO. So program, cam 1 ISO. Next thing is let's add the source names that are relevant to that server as well. So if I remember correctly, our source names, we can check flow control here. Got car park feed and car park feed 2. Let's put these in here. Car park feed. And remember to spell these correctly, otherwise you will get an error. Media spaces, we can add in the media space. So unmanaged. I'm just going to make a mistake in the spelling of this name. I'm just going to put capture instead of captures. So next we come across to our spreadsheet here, and we can start calling or adding our scheduled job names. So let's just call this car park activity. Can't spell. 2 car clip 2, and now we can start seeing our drop down. Now we're going to pick this channel, and we know that car park feed source is allocated to this channel. If they do not match, you will get an error. And finally, make sure that we choose the right codec that has been assigned to that as well. And I'm just going to choose that. Remember, we spelled this incorrectly. Let's just download the CSV now. I've got the CSV downloaded to my local machine. And I now go into Schedule tab in ES1, click Import Schedule CSV. You'll see I get an error almost immediately, and it tells us the error, which is that the car park job activity is not created because the media space is required. That means it's not found that particular media space. So let me go back in here. Oh, I see that I missed out the S on that because it's meant to be captures. And I'm just going to export that CSV again. come back to import the CSV, and we can see that we've got a successful import. I'm just going to go to today, and it was for tomorrow. There we go. You can see our car park activity 2 is available there, all ready to go. And that is a very quick overview of how to set up your Flow Ingest and Live Capture server for better success.